Welcome everyone, happy Friday. Thank you for joining us today. Today we are talking about applying for myotonic dystrophy research funding through the PRMRP program. A little bit about Myotonic Dystrophy Foundation. I'm Dr. Tanya Stevenson, the CEO of the foundation. We envision a world with treatments and a cure for myotonic dystrophy. Our mission is community care and a cure. We support and connect the myotonic dystrophy community. We provide resources and advocate for care, and we accelerate research towards treatment and a cure. This is a month to celebrate. February is Rare Disease Month, and next Tuesday will be Rare Disease Day. There is still time to get involved. Please help us raise awareness about myotonic dystrophy, advocate for DM research funding, join the DM family registry if you haven't, participate in clinical trials, clinical research. You can learn more at myotonic.org/rare-disease-day-2023. There are hundreds of resources on our website, myotonic.org. You'll find many under the research tab of our website. You'll find research grants and fellowship information, the DM research map, our stem cell library information, our digital academy, which hosts all of our presentations, any speakers that might have spoken on behalf of the foundation. We've tried to record as much as possible, including at our conferences, and we have posted them to our digital academy. Today's recording will also be posted to the Digital Academy, likely sometime next week. A couple of upcoming events to mention. Rare Disease Month. We have an advocacy workshop the day before Rare Disease Day. This Monday, you can learn how to advocate for U.S. federal funding, which would be slightly different than just the PRMRP program that we're going to be learning about more today. And that's myotonic.org/rare-disease-month-advocacy-workshop. Also, we're very excited to announce that we are going to Washington, D.C. for our conference this year, September 7th through 9th. You can find that on our website as well. More details will be coming soon. Any of our upcoming events are found at myotonic.org/calendar/month. Today, we're going to learn about a program within the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, and that was originally established in 1992 by U.S. Congress. It sits within the U.S. Department of Defense. There are 35 research programs, one of which is the Peer Review Medical Research Program. For very specific information about that, you can contact Dr. Dupecher, who will be presenting today, and her email address is here, and we can provide that for you at a later date as well. Okay, just a little bit of history. The myotonic dystrophy eligibility process. So in order to get onto the list for research funding through PRMRP, each spring, a U.S. senator must intentionally add a specific disease or disorder to the PRMRP funding eligibility list. Without Senate advocacy, myotonic dystrophy will not be eligible to receive research funding through PRMRP. And that is important because we have received almost $17 million in research funding since we started advocating for this with our senators in 2018. So you can see here over time, we've seen a little bit of an increase and then a drop. And then this past year, $8.8 million of funding went directly to DM researchers. We are hopeful that we will remain with Senate advocacy, will remain on the eligibility list every year. So today you're going to be hearing from Dr. Cecilia Dupecher. She is the program manager for the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Programs. She provides strategic coordination for the execution and management of PRMRP Congressional appropriation. As the program manager, she's responsible for executing the entire program lifecycle, including the investment strategy, development of funding opportunities, overseeing review of research proposals and analysis of PRMRP's accomplishments. She joined CDMRP in 2017 as a science officer, providing scientific management and oversight to a portfolio of research awards focused on various infectious diseases, specifically funded under PRMRP. She holds a degree, a Ph.D. in microbiology and immunology from University of Sao Paulo, School of Medicine in Brazil, after conducting her thesis research on invasion pathways and intracellular trafficking exploited by various pathogens. Her previous positions also include postdoctoral associate at Yale University School of Medicine, program specialist at National Human Genome Institute, and account manager at Lentigen Technology Incorporated. Many of you submitted your questions in advance. Thank you so much. Dr. Dupecher is going to do her best to answer those questions that came in early. If you have questions during the presentation, please go to the questions tab of your menu bar, type in your question, and just click send. If you are on a smartphone, click the question mark icon at the top of the screen. You can type your question there and then click send. A reminder, today's program is being recorded, and you can refer back to the Digital Academy to find this recording. Okay, thank you so much, and welcome, Dr. Dupecher.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today to be able to be presenting this for all of you. There we go. Okay. And to be presenting this for all of you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here and to talk about our program and our funding opportunities with you. I'm Cecilia Dupecher, as Tanya introduced me. I am the program manager for one of the programs called peer-reviewed medical research programs that are executed under the Congressionally directed medical research programs, which is we call CDMRP. It's an organization that sits under the DoD. Next slide, please. So throughout this briefing, I'm going to give you an overview of CDMRP, of the organization. I know it might be new to many of you. I'm going to go through our program cycle and the review process, which is a little bit different than other funding organizations. I'm going to talk about the program itself, because each of our programs have different strategies, different visions, different mission, different congressional language, which is most important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about PRMRP, our funding opportunities, which are now available for submission. So I'm going to go through that, which ones we have and how to apply, and I'll finalize with some additional resources and strategies for success. Next slide, please. So this is the vision and mission of CDMRP. We aim to transform healthcare through innovative and impactful research. And impactful is a very important and a word that holds a lot of weight for us. We do try, our goal really is to venture and invest in some research projects that are not, that wouldn't be funded by other funding organizations. And we do that by responsibly managing collaborative research that discovers, develops, and delivers healthcare solutions for the service members, veterans, and the American public. Next slide, please. This is our STAR graph. It's really the who, the what, the where, and the how. So as Tanya mentioned, we started by Congress in 1992, and this was really through grassroots efforts for the breast cancer community, from the breast cancer community, that established our first program at CDMRP, which was a breast cancer program. After that, we have steadily grown since then. I think Congress was very pleased with how we execute those funds. We fund innovative and impactful biomedical research that can be funded anywhere in the world. So there's a sort of a misconception that we can only fund researchers inside the US. That's not true. We can fund research anywhere in the world. And how we do that, our secret sauce really, which is a part of our process that we're very proud of, is the two-tier review process that involves scientists, clinicians, and consumers on the panels. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit further. Next slide, please. Here are some hallmarks of our organization. We like to emphasize a few characteristics that really makes CDMRP CDMRP. As Tanya mentioned, our funds are added by Congress. to the DoD budget. We do not request these funds, right? So Congress adds funds for targeted research projects. We fund high impact and high innovative research, as I mentioned, some of which other funding organizations, and especially government organizations, wouldn't venture to fund. We are very proud of having processes that avoids duplication with other funding agency and targets unfunded and unmet gaps. We have a collaboration with the NIH, with the VA, that we are able to really see the proposals that are also under submission there. We will not fund any type of research that has that is a duplication with the NIH or any other funding organization. And we do track that during our negotiations. Our funding opportunities, they're publicly announced and competed. This is an equal opportunity program, and we can't really provide much guidance for individual performers. It's openly competed, right? We follow the National Academy of Medicine recommended model for application review. This was introduced by us as soon as we stood up the organization, and it was approved by them, and that's how the two-tier review process became our secret sauce. One thing that we're very proud of is that consumers, they participate throughout the process, and they are really our true north. And the consumers are patients living with the disease or family members that provide care for these patients. And really this helps center us because, of course, we do want to fund the best meritorious research, the research that has most scientific merit, but we are also looking for that research that truly impacts the patient community. We are able, because our appropriations come yearly, every year we will receive the appropriation and the topic areas that are assigned to us. So that provides us some flexibility to rapidly change how we invest, adapt our investment strategy, and respond to changing needs. We have funding flexibility. We do not have a pay line different than other funding organizations. So our funding recommendations are based on portfolio competition, adherence to mechanism intent, relative impact, and technical merit. There are several criteria that we look on the second level of review, and I'm going to go through this in more detail further. But we do not have a pay line. That is the main, the take-home message here. Not necessarily the most meritorious proposal, the highest meritorious proposal is the one that is going to be recommended for funding. We are proud of our transparency and accountability to our stakeholders. This is also something that we strive to keep our high standards on that. So if you go to our website, you'll be able to see all the proposals that were funded, all our funding, our panels, who is doing the review. So we do have a high transparency, and we are being very accountable to our stakeholders. For low management costs, we are proud that we have one of the lowest management costs of all funding organizations, and this leaves us much more funds so we can actually invest in research. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, these are congressionally directed medical research programs. They are targeted, they are added to the bill. So this year we have 35, and this can vary, right? But this year we have 35 programs, and you will see there peer review medical research program, which is the one that's highlighted in yellow, and we received $370 million this year. So it's the largest program of the organization. It is one of the most complex because of the number of topic areas. Only one other program is assigned topic areas the way that we are, and I'm going to explain the difference between that and a more prescriptive congressional language that we receive. But this is the hallmark of PRMRP are the topic areas. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to shift gears and talk a little bit about our program cycle and how we do our review process. Here's just a visual diagram of our program cycle, and we are mostly going to be focusing on the left side here. So you will see, since we are able to do our vision setting meeting, which is how we determine how we are going to spend the funds for the next year, with many stakeholders being involved in that vision setting meeting. And then once we receive the appropriation, and this is very important, we cannot release the appropriation before we release before we receive the funds. So then after that, we release our funding opportunities. We go through the entire review cycle, peer review and programmatic review. What I would like to note, there are two things that I would like to note on this slide. You can see the bottom arrow there, the blue arrow. It can take up to, by the time that you submit a proposal, and depending on the award mechanism that you're going to submit, about up to 12 to 18 months for you to actually receive the funding recommendation and the whole and the outcome of your proposal if you're not recommended for funding. So this happens because we have the entire year to execute those funds. We actually have, by the time we receive, we have 2 years for our DT&E to appropriate and execute those funds. And we try to leave the most amount of time for the researchers to actually have time to submit and draft their proposals, but we also need to make sure that we are diligently doing our review process. So that's why this lag, because we can only start releasing our funding opportunities after we receive the appropriation, it is a little bit lengthier. So do keep that in mind when you submit your proposals. The other thing that I would like to highlight here on this slide is that the Programmatic Panel, as you see there, they are involved in several steps of our review process in all our or in all levels of review, right? And the Programmatic Panel, they are composed of clinicians, scientists, and consumers as well. So keep that in mind while you're drafting your proposal. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about our two-tier review process. So the goal of our two-tier review process is really to balance the most meritorious science, which is done by peer review, and proposals that offer the highest promise to fulfill the programmatic goals. So it's really, which is going to happen at the programmatic review. So it's really a partnership between peer review and programmatic review. Next slide, please. So talking a little bit about the first level of review, how the evaluation process works. These proposals are assessed based on the ideal application. So you're going to have a set of peer review criteria that are listed in the program announcement, and then they're going to be evaluated against the criteria that we put forth. That we do not, one thing that's very important for you to know, because of the fluctuation of the topic areas that can vary from year to year, we do not have standing panels. This is a program that stood up every year. We don't know if we're going to receive an appropriation next year, so we have to be very dynamic in this sense. So we do not have standing panels. The reviewers are really recruited based on the expertise needed to meet congressional intent that year. Identities are unknown to the applicants. We do provide that after the year has closed, after we've sent out all the recommended for funding. You will find the name of the reviewers that were part of the process in the previous year. But we do not, this is one thing different than other funding organizations, we really cannot work with individual performers to tailor their proposal to the program. This is supposed to be, as I said, an equal opportunity. Everyone is eligible to apply as long as they meet the criteria that we have in the program announcement. And we really do not want to provide a competitive advantage by giving information to individual performers. The outcome of the peer review process are the summary statements, which will be then handed off to the programmatic panel. Next slide, please. And that's on the website. You will have the list of reviewers that you can see that participated in the peer review process in the previous year. Next slide, please. So for programmatic review, that's going to be the second level of review. So we have a pool of proposals that receive very high scores, and those are the ones that are going to go to our programmatic review so they can actually filter and find the proposals that will best meet the program strategy and the intent of the program. So now here we're looking at a comparison among proposals of high scientific merit. And they're looking at review criteria, like I said, that are listed in the program announcement. They're seeing how well your proposal fits the intent of the mechanism. We look to innovation and impact. Those are very important for CDMRP. The relative relevance to program goals in comparison to other proposals. So this is really going to be a comparison between the best proposals that we had submitted that year. And like I said, there is no pay line, right? It might be that a proposal that received the lower score is going to be actually the one that's going to meet our program's need. And this is why we have the second level of review. Our programmatic panel, they are comprised of consumers, clinicians, researchers, and depending on the need for other expertise or just a higher number that year, we do also recruit ad hoc reviewers. Next slide, please. One of the things, like I mentioned, our consumers are the true north and foundation of CDMRP. And this includes patients, survivors, family members that are part of the panel, and they have a voting, they have a full vote, just like the scientific reviewers. So I strongly recommend that you keep that in mind when you're drafting your proposal. Look really at the impact, how this is going to change their lives, because these are the people that actually go to bat for the funds, right? And we want to make sure that the research that we fund are having an impact on them. Next slide, please. Now I'm going to switch gears and talk a little bit about just what's specific for PRMRP. That review cycle, if you end up deciding to choose to submit to another program, if there's a program that fits another area of research that you work, they are all going to have some specific nuances that are specific to each of these programs. But our review process, the two-tier review process, that is organization-wide. Next slide, please. So PRMRP, you can see there we were established by Congress in 1999, and really the goal was to address disease and conditions with relevance to military health. The direction from Congress that we receive is to support research of clear scientific merit and direct relevance to military health in specified topic areas. And this is very important because our language in this case, different than other programs that have a much more elaborate congressional language that is a little bit more prescriptive and directive. For PRMRP, our congressional language is really just to support research of clear scientific merit in these specified topic areas. And then we receive a list of topic areas that are eligible for funding that year. Next slide, please. So here are the 50 topic areas that were assigned to the program that were in congressional language this year. You can see there in blue, these are new topic areas that had never been assigned to the program. And we have several of those this year. We also have sometimes topic areas that have been on the program for a few years or just 1 year. And then in the following year, they are not included in the language, but then they make a return. And this year we have a couple of those, like scleroderma and tuberculosis. What's important to note here is that because of our congressional language, it says the funds shall be devoted to the topic areas listed below. We have by law to address at least one of the topic areas to be eligible for funding. Next slide, please. So the way that our program sets the strategy, how our funding strategy, and really our scientific strategy to make the best use of the funds that are appropriated to us. We take a portfolio-driven approach. We allocate these topic areas into 9 portfolios, and you can see there it spans a broad range of diseases and conditions, right? You will see there that myotonic dystrophy is assigned this year to rare diseases and conditions. And we will talk a little bit about the specificities of this portfolio. But what is important is that once you have in our funding opportunities, you're going to see the portfolio, the topic areas, and each of these portfolios will have specific strategic goals, which are overarching challenges that we are trying to accomplish that year. So make sure that you're looking at the right portfolio and you're looking at the goals, because your proposal is going to have to address one of the congressionally mandated topic areas and one of the program's strategic goals. Next slide, please. So in order to fulfill this and to achieve this, we release our funding opportunities. We this year we have 6 funding opportunities that are offered and that were offered, and they span from bench to bedside, right? It's the full pipeline of research. I'm going to talk a little bit in more detail about each of these award mechanisms, but you can see there that you have from very early on discovery awards that are smaller awards with 200K all the way up to our clinical trials, which are very competitive, but they also do not have any direct cost limit. Next slide, please. So here you can see our funding opportunities. The Discovery Award, what we're really looking with this Discovery Award is a proposal that supports the exploration of very highly and risky concepts, things that have not been tested, that outside of the box thinking, that we're just going to fund with 200K and to see what we get out of it. So these are very risky awards. But and one thing that's important for them, they're not meant to be one of the aims that you would submit to an R01 to just fund a smaller award. This is not the intent of this award mechanism. The intent is really to find that very innovative and risky research that will lead to like significant gains further along the line. The other mechanism that we have is the investigator initiated. This is our bread and butter. We have the direct cost goes from 1.6 to 2 million. It depends if you have a partnering PI. And it's really to support, we support the full basic through translational research that is going to improve and impact, again, the word impact, the field of research or patient care. So even if you're looking or submitting here mechanistic studies, try to articulate how that will impact the patient population down the road. Then we have our Technology Therapeutic Award. We have 2 funding levels depending on where you are on the product development, either 2 million or 4 million. But the most important thing here is that this is a product-driven award mechanism. It's really meant to support the translation of preclinical findings into impactful products for clinical application. So it's supposed to take you all the way from preclinical studies to an IND. That's the goal of this award mechanism, that you will be able to submit and obtain an IND by the end of the period of performance. All these mechanisms require a letter of intent. And I'm just going to pause. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how our process works. So when you submit a proposal to CDMRP, it's always going to be a 2-step proposal. You're either going to have to submit a letter of intent or a pre-proposal, and then you will be required to submit a full proposal. Now, a letter of intent is just simply a 1 paragraph. You're going to tell us the title of your proposal. You are going to explain to us briefly how you are addressing the topic area and the strategic goal. It's very short. It's not a lot of work, but it is not optional. You have to submit. If a letter of intent is not submitted, we are not able to accept your full proposal. And the reason why we have this letter of intent is to just simply help us start administratively setting up the panels that are going to be needed to review these proposals. So the more information that you can provide, whether it's going to focus on mechanistic studies or a little bit further down the line, animal studies. So whatever it is, it's important because then we can direct this to the panels that we're just forming at the moment that we start with receiving these letters. Next slide, please. Here are 3 other award mechanisms that we have. So we have the Focus Program Award. This is basically a team science. It is meant to bring together multidisciplinary research teams. And we require at least 4 distinct but complementary projects, and they're all addressing an overarching challenge there. The direct cost limit on that one is 7.2. Then we have our clinical trials. We have 2, actually, again, 2 funding levels here. We have one that's the planning phase. That's basically to just fund that those final arrangements that you need to do. Animal studies are excluded from this. It's just if you need to finalize a few things with the IRB, finalize documents, set up sites. So that's what it is. That's the intent of the planning phase. Or you can have our full clinical trial that supports the totality of the clinical trial all at once. And this year, what's new to the program, we started doing this lifestyle and behavioral health interventions. And it's really meant to support clinical research and clinical trials that use a combination of scientific disciplines, including behavioral health, psychology, psychometrics, biostatistics, epidemiology, and surveillance and public health. We would like to direct those types of clinical research and clinical trials to this award mechanism, so they would not be really competing to trials that are testing more therapeutics and biologicals, right? So for the lifestyle and behavioral health interventions, a letter of intent is required. Like I said, you just submit the letter of intent, and then by the deadline, you submit your full proposal. Now, the focus program award and clinical trial, they're a little bit more elaborate mechanisms. The onus on the PI to draft these is much larger. So this is why what we do here is a pre-proposal submission. So you're going to submit as a pre-proposal about 4 pages. The program announcements go through each of the requirements for each of these award mechanisms. And with that, this is going to be reviewed by our programmatic panel. And again, our programmatic panel is also listed on the website. I really encourage you to go and check and take a look at the individuals that formed our panel, because these are the people that are actually that you're catering to, right? This is your target population that are going to be reviewing your proposal. In this case, our programmatic panel also does the review of the pre-proposals. And then the result of that is, after you submit this 4-page document, the programmatic panel will take a look at it, and you will either be invited or not invited to submit a full proposal. So these 2 award mechanisms do require an invitation. The others just require a letter of intent. Next slide, please. So the other thing that's required for all our funding opportunities, and this I would like to emphasize, this is very important for the rare diseases field, okay? One of the criteria for a programmatic panel is military health relevance. So the way that the programs that we have our topic areas, all of our topic areas are military relevant. Not some of them are a little bit more military aligned. What is important is while you're drafting your proposal, it is important for you to start including and really articulate your military health statement. This is an attachment that you're going to have to submit. And this includes what the dual use capacity that could benefit of whatever it is, the project that you're proposing, how it can benefit the civilian population, and also a need related to military health. Aspects of the target disease and condition with direct relevance to military health, pull out statistics. Keep in mind that if you have family members that have myotonic dystrophy, that does take a toll on military readiness. So how much does how would this contribute to family readiness of service members, right? Which we call mission readiness. All this is very important to be very well articulated, because if you look, we are going to have several military folks that are part of that programmatic panel. So take a look at the individuals that are there, and then this is a very important portion of the proposal for you to very well articulate and address. Also, our proposals must meet, as I mentioned, must address one of the FY23 topic areas. This is by law, and also our PRMRP portfolio strategic goals. And I'm going to give you an example of that, what that looks like. Next slide, please. So when you open up our program announcements, you're going to see the intent. It depends to which program announcement it's going to you're opening. You're going to see the intent of that award mechanism. If it's a TTDA, it's going to have to be product driven. And then you're going to see all the areas that are eligible for funding. And in all of our program announcements, we will list a portfolio. Myotonic dystrophy would be in rare diseases and conditions portfolio. And we will list the strategic goals of that specific portfolio. We have all of the portfolios listed, but you will need to address actually the strategic goals of that specific portfolio. So this is really meant to be a mix and match. These goals, they are broad for a reason. We want them to be able to encompass many aspects and facets of the topic areas that fall within that portfolio. Some of them sometimes can be a little bit more specific to a specific topic area, but that's something that was really emphasized by the community that was needed. So we do add sometimes a little bit more granularity to these goals. But overall, most of these topic areas can be mixed and matched to each of these goals. It is, I think one thing that's important to note is there is no benefit to applying to one of the goals versus the other. Really, the best mechanism, the best goal, the best portfolio for you to apply is the one that actually provides you the vehicle for you to execute the project that you're giving to us, that you're submitting for review. Next slide, please. So now you have all, I walked you through a little bit about the program announcements, how the program is distributed. And now I think everybody can be wondering, well, how are we going to actually be evaluated? Well, in each of the funding opportunities, and this is going to be dependent on the funding opportunity, you are going to receive a list. You're going to see there a list of peer review criteria that really specifies. In each of them, you have a sub-bullet. I think we can click one more time, and there should be one more thing on that. There we go. There's going to be a list of sub-bullets for each one of these criteria that you see there. And they are listed in decreasing order of importance. So depending on the mechanism, research strategy, feasibility is going to be the most important peer review criteria. Another, it's going to be impact, like the Discovery Awards. It's going to be innovation, impact. But in each of these, you will see a list of bullet points on how it is that you're going to be evaluated. So when people ask, what is the best way? How do I start drafting my proposal? Well, take a look at the peer review criteria and make sure that you're addressing this, because this is what is going to give you a numeric score of your proposal, right? They're going to be evaluating this. And then at the end, we will receive a summary statement that's going to end up going to the programmatic panel. Next slide, please. So the programmatic panel, they base, as you can see there, they also have their own set of criteria. And they are based, the first thing is ratings and evaluations of the peer reviewer. Keep in mind that the programmatic panel will not, and that should be written in your program announcement, they will not have access to all documents of your proposal. Programmatic panel's goal is really to balance out and do a comparison, do an analysis, a comparative analysis of the proposals, of the best proposals that we actually have, and how they're going to recommend, which one they're going to recommend for funding. So they're not there to re-review the science. They're basing their decisions on the summary statement and a few other attachments that are listed in the funding opportunity that end up going to them, like military relevance is only reviewed by the programmatic panel. So keep in mind that to whom and which attachments are important for you to be drafting to each specific public target, right? Target public. Next slide, please. Oh, and again, our programmatic panel, they are listed, this year's programmatic panel, they are listed on our website. So we do encourage you to go and take a look to see who is actually going to be reviewing your proposals this year. Here's just a snapshot. A summary of LOI, what's pre-proposal, and our deadlines. These slides are going to be available to you at your request, or I'm not sure if Tanya is going to put them on the website, but it's just an easy way for you to see that the deadlines and which mechanisms require a letter of intent versus pre-proposal, as we discussed this. I will say these deadlines, different than other funding organizations, the dates that we have listed there, they are set in stone. The DoD does not provide a grace period, right? And this is very unfortunate. We see sometimes a lot of proposals that come in 1 minute later. We cannot accept them. We won't accept them. So please give yourself enough time. Many of them are going to have, if you are for the extramural performers, they are going to be that are not inside of the DoD. These proposals are going to be submitted by your business office. So make sure that you have enough time to actually submit these proposals by the deadline. Okay. Next slide, please. So here I'm just going to close. This is the last session with some additional tips, resources, and strategies for success. So if I could leave you with one single take-home message, it's that one. Read the announcements carefully. Our program announcements, we are very well aware of that. We receive a lot of complaints, but they are long and lengthy for a reason. It's because we are not going to interact with the performers to tailor their proposals. So all the information is really there. And these are reviewed and re-reviewed by lawyers. So I think there's a lot, even if you go through the start going through the funding opportunities, you say, okay, all right, I got this, right? I mean, I got the whole idea and the gist of this. Really read, because every line has an intent and has a purpose there. The funding opportunities, make sure that you are looking into the program goals. In this case, it would be our strategic goals, like I said, which are individual to each portfolio. Make sure that you're looking at the topic areas. The award intent, we often have some proposals that do not meet the intent of the award mechanism. We can't fund them. Those are withdrawn before they are withdrawn before we can even send them for peer review. The required elements that we say, eligibility and funding. The review criteria, as I mentioned, is the most important. I think before you even start drafting your proposal, take a look at how you are going to be evaluated to make sure that you include all those points. And again, the deadline. Absent a hurricane that really impacts the country, we do not provide grace periods. Next slide, please. And here are some tips for success. We often tell PIs to really take a look at impact innovation. These are key for us. Propose solutions that are important to solve like problems or gaps that are really burning in the field. One thing that I think is very important for us to touch on is to clearly articulate translatability. How will this work? How will this make a difference? This has to be very well explained in your proposal. Keep in mind that consumers will be reading this, right? And they also have, like I mentioned, they also have an equal vote. So make sure that you are articulating that idea. Innovation, you do provide a clear rationale why you're proposing something new. Talk about the risks. We are not adverse to risk, but we want to know what those risks are and how this has never really been done in the field. Why this is this project would be a trailblazer. And feasibility, right? Make sure that you are using. You saw that for some of the award mechanisms, research strategy and feasibility is the most important review criteria. It's not all of them, but for the ones that are, make sure that you are spending a lot of time covering the bullets that you see there. Next slide, please. Planning timelines, like I mentioned, include time when you're going to have to submit a statement of work. Leave yourself enough time in that. Make sure that you're including time for regulatory approvals, for coordination with other partners if that's the case. And I will say that grantsmanship goes a long way, right? Take a look at who you're writing this proposal, who is going to be reviewing them, who are the folks that are making the decision. Understand the different audiences of peer review and programmatic review, right? We're talking about two different panels, two different levels of review, and you're going to have to, your proposal is going to have to address the review criteria for peer review, but you're also going to have that big picture vision for the programmatic panel. And review all the application documents carefully before submitting. This is a very long list. Depending on our clinical trials, they have several attachments. There are many times we have a compliance period that this is going to be automated. There are several times that we receive, I would say, statement of work from a different PI that is included in your proposal, and then there it goes, right? We cannot accept that because it's not compliant. So please make sure that you review all of those things very carefully. And again, the deadline. This is a big one. After our deadline, we do have a verification period, and this is you will be informed if you're missing something, but you will not be able to upload or change documents like the project narrative and the budget. Those cannot be changed. So if you submit a wrong project narrative, or if you would like to change something, this also happens. There are several PIs that come to us and they say, well, we submitted the wrong version control. It was the wrong document. We want to change that during the verification period. They can't. That we cannot allow. So it's going to be reviewed with what you submitted for those documents. All right. Next slide, please. And we do have a lot of information available on our website. We encourage you to go to our website, browse all the links that we have there. We have several webinars and videos that really go through the submission process. So these are great resources for you to have. Next slide, please. You also can set up for a listserv. If you go on our website, you can subscribe to be informed through our listserv, and you can actually choose which program you want to receive information. And with that, once you are in our listserv, you will receive notification that program announcements are out. If we release pre-announcements, sometimes we have time to release pre-announcements for PRMRP. We don't, because by the time we know our topic areas, we are already releasing the funding opportunities. So but you will be notified of everything that's important or that's coming up for that program. Next slide, please. And again, here's the list of our webinars. I just thought it would be helpful to list it there with the link. So we do encourage you to take a look at them. And it was a pleasure being able to provide this brief. I hope that this was informative for you, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dupecher. That was fantastic. We do have quite a few questions that have come in. Looks like the first question is, when are letters of intent due for 2023? And I will repost your glitch sheet. If that's okay, we'll repost the glitch sheet and get that out to anybody who's on the webinar today, and we'll get it out to all of the professionals that are in our database as well, for those who might be interested.
And are you going to distribute these slides?
Yes.
There's a slide there that lists all the...
Fantastic. Even better. Next question. If I have received NIH funding, may I apply still for PRMRP funding?
For the same proposal? No. We will catch that. No. This is something that we are very proud. We cannot fund overlapping research. If it has been funded, we are not able to do it. When you submit to us your statement of work and what you're proposing to do, we assume that that had not been funded, and that's how our recommendations are made. We are assuming that has not been submitted, because if we do find overlapping, and we like I said, we have a team of people that are just looking for overlap, they will be caught during negotiations, and then you will not be able to get that funding.
Okay, but if they had received a grant in the past and it is a slightly different proposal, they're working on something similar, then that would still be okay. Fantastic.
Absolutely, yes.
Great. Next question. I am a researcher in Canada. May I apply for PRMRP funding?
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. So international applicants are considered.
International applicants are eligible, and we do have quite a few of Canadian researchers.
Okay. Next question. I think you've answered this one. What is the maximum award amount per person? Can we apply into two different categories, for example, discovery and investigator initiated?
You can apply. You can apply one. You can submit one proposal. That's a good question. I should include that while I'm talking about that. You can submit one proposal per award mechanism for the same PI. You cannot submit several proposals. Let's say you have several ideas for an IRA. You have to choose one and submit that one. But you can submit to the IRA and to the Discovery Award, making sure that if it shouldn't be the same project, the Discovery Award shouldn't be a subset of another one, right? It's a completely different intent.
Okay. Okay. Next question, is funding available only for academia, or can companies and industry apply as well?
Absolutely. We fund industry, we fund academia. Absolutely, yes.
Can a U.S. company apply in collaboration with a French academic institution?
Yes. Yes, it will be. It depends. So let's read the program announcement carefully on that sense. But yes, absolutely can. Whether it's going to be as a subcontract, a sub-award that's going to be embedded in that award. But yes, let's say you were applying for a TTDA and you want to provide a sub-award to France. That can be perfectly set up, yes. And the other thing that happens in the IRAs, like I said, the investigator-initiated ones, where you do have the partnering PI option, we can have one PI here, and we actually encourage that, so they're not from the same institution, right? So they're actually bringing something different to the project. We actually encourage, and it can be one PI in the United States and another research team in France, absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, is integrative medicine such as acupuncture, looks like it got cut off, but is that a topic that might be funded?
For myotonic dystrophy?
Yes.
So that would fall more under the lifestyle and behavioral health intervention, which is our new clinical trial that we've had. Are we talking about clinical research? Are we talking about doing a clinical trial with acupuncture?
It's not clear from this particular question. It says yes, clinical research and both, she just added.
Yes. Take a look at that lifestyle and health intervention. Now, if it is something that will need FDA approval, if it is something, then you would have to end up going to the full clinical trial. But yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions? Does this mechanism fund manufacturing campaigns for drug candidates?
Yes, that's our TTDA award. Technology therapeutic, the one that's product development. It includes manufacturing, GMP, GLP. Yes.
Great. Any other questions? We only have Dr. Dupecher here once for this year, so please send these questions along.
But you can feel free to reach out to me too.
Well, one of the questions, or one of the things I just want to remind folks about as well was just that, Dr. Dupecher, you talked about two different types of reviewers. You have the consumer sort of peer reviewer, and then you have the programmatic reviewer. And if folks would like a little bit more information about that, you can definitely contact me. I'm happy to talk with you about the experience that MDF has in recommending people for the peer review and tell you a little bit about what we know about programmatic review as well, so that we can also make recommendations to the PRMRP program if it makes sense. So we're very happy to hear from folks who might be interested in becoming a reviewer.
Absolutely.
No other questions are coming through, which if anyone has questions as follow-up, please feel free to send them to me. I am tanya.stevenson@myotonic.org, or when the slides come out, you can also contact Dr. Dupecher directly. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Dupecher, for being here, for walking us through all of this with great detail. We truly appreciate it. And we hope to see many DM applications in the coming year. So thank you very much. Happy Friday, everyone. Take good care.